You are now listening to 1 Timothy 4:13 Project with the undershepherds of the Cathedral of Praise, Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall with Pastora Alisha Sumrall-Lozano.
Good evening. Welcome again to Project 1 Timothy chapter 4. I'm Pastor Sumrall, the pastor of the Cathedral of Praise, and thank you for allowing Sister Bev and I, and now Pastora A, the three of us together, to come and just lay out the scriptures for you this year. Last year, Sister Bev and I went through Psalms and the New Testament. This year, Sister Bev and I are going to be dividing up some of the Old Testament books, and Pastor A is going to be going through Proverbs with you. So let's go to Pastor A and get started on Proverbs, and then we'll get back into Genesis 10.
Welcome everyone, I'm Pastora A, and today we're stepping into the Book of Proverbs, where God's wisdom meets daily life. Let's get started. Now today we're going through Proverbs chapter 1, verses 10 to 14. My child, if sinners entice you, turn your back on them. They may say, come and join us. Let's hide and kill someone. Just for fun, let's ambush the innocent. Let us swallow them alive like the grave. Let us swallow them whole like those who go down to the pit of death. Think of the great things we'll get. We'll fill our house with all the stuff we take. Come, throw in your lot with us, and we'll share the loot. So what can we learn from this passage? Well, let's go through verse by verse, then tackle some principles. Verse 10, we see sin wants company. Sin wants company for a specific reason, to validate things. Nothing new here. This happened already at the garden with Adam and Eve. Here, come, have some of this. Join me. Now, don't let people use you to validate the sin that they are doing. I feel like I need to say that one more time just for feeling. Don't let people use you to validate the sin that they are doing. Go away. Walk away. Now this verse 10, it shows us how to respond to the temptation or to the pressure. We are to literally turn our back. Don't even entertain it. Verses 11 and 12, we see the power of the barkada. They can push us for good just as much as they can push us for bad. That's why you need to pick good friends, good influences in your life. It is not worth having the bad friends. Now we see the motivation of violence in verse 11 and 12, and that is scary because the motivation is not for good. The motivation was to hurt, to take. It was for quick gain. Now, again, having bad people in our life, it leads us to do bad, violent, and very foolish things. Verse 13 shows us greedy motivation, the me mentality. What can I get? Now, this is never supposed to be the motivation that we are going to have, because this is never the motivation that we see from God. We are not supposed to care about ourselves at the expense of hurting other people. Principle: temptation always looks at the benefits, but it never looks at the consequences. Let me say that again. Temptation always looks at the benefits, but it never looks at the consequences. So let's then see verse 14. Again, we see the barkada coming together and trying to push you again to join when they say, come on, throw in your loot with us. We'll share in all the loot. Now, this is why we see people having a purpose to rebel. Come on, come join us. We'll all go together. Sin is very dangerous. It always has been. Again, going back to the garden. Come have a bite of this yummy looking apple or papaya or banana or whatever piece of fruit it was in the tree. But that's not the right or the good kind of generosity. It's the kind that leads you to so much pain. In other words, major consequences. And it's just not worth it. So principles we see here. Have good friends with good hearts, with good motivation, because they're going to push you to good. They're going to push you to godly things. Your barkada matters. Choose wisely. Let's head over to Pastor Sumrall now.
Our Old Testament passage tonight begins in Genesis chapter 10, verse 1. This is the account of the families of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the three sons of Noah. Many children were born to them after the great flood. Now, this is where all the nations came from. Not only do all of us go back to Adam, but all of us also go back to Noah as a common father. Now Shem, this would be the Semitic races. This would be Asia and the Middle East. Ham, this would be the African races. And Japheth, this would be the European races. All right? So Japheth, think European. Ham, think African. Shem, think Middle Eastern and Asian. The descendants of Japheth, these are the European people, were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The descendants of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Rethath, and Togarmah. The descendants of Javan are Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Rodanam. Their descendants became the seafaring peoples that spread out to various lands, each identified by its own language, clan, and national identity. The descendants of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The descendants of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Raamah, Sabteka, and the descendants of Raamah were Sheba and Dedan. Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod, who was the first heroic warrior of the earth. And since he was the greatest hunter of the world, his name became proverbial. People would say, "This man is like Nimrod, the great hunter in the world." He built his kingdom in the land of Babylonia, with the cities of Babylon, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. From there he expanded his territory to Assyria, building the cities of Nineveh, Rehoboth-ir, and Calah, and Rezin, the great city located between Nineveh and Calah. Mizraim was the ancestor of the Ludites, the Ananites, the Lehabites, and the Nattuhites, Pashurites, Kasulites, Kaphorites, from whom the Philistines came. Canaan's older son was Sidon, the ancestor of the Sidonians. Canaan was also the ancestor of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, and Gershonites, Hivites, Archites, and Sinites, Ardavites, Zemarites, Hamathites. The Canaanite clans eventually spread out, and the territory of Canaan extended from Sidon to the north to Gerar, to Gaza in the south, and as east as far as Sodom and Gomorrah, Abna, and Zeboam near Lasha. These are the descendants of Ham, identified by clan, language, territory, and national identity. Sons were also born to Shem, the older brother of Japheth. Shem was the ancestor of all the descendants of Eber. The descendants of Shem were Elam, Asher, Arxphahad, Lud, and Aram. The descendants of Aram were Uz, Hul, Geter, and Mash. Arphax was the father of Shelah. Shelah was the father of Ebner. Ebner had two sons. The first was named Peleg, which means division, for during his lifetime the people of the world were divided into different language groups. So this would have been during the Tower of Babel incident that we'll be reading about in a few moments. His brother's name was Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almadad, Sheleph, Harzmachvava, and Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Dilha, Obal, Abimaal, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All of these were the descendants of Joktan. The territory they occupied from Misha all the way to Zephyr in the eastern mountains. These were the descendants of Shem, identified by clan, language, territory, and national identity. These are the clans that descended from Noah's sons, arranged by nation according to their lines of descent. All the nations of the earth descended from these clans after the great flood. Chapter 11, verse 1. At one time, all the people of the world spoke the same language and used the same words. Now notice, this is important. Not just the same language, but the same words. Oftentimes, you notice from generation to generation, people use the same words to mean different things. And now we have words like ghosted, which I had to ask somebody what it meant one day. So it's not just important that people speak the same language, but they use the words in the same way. As the people migrated to the east, they found a plain in the land of Babylonia and settled there. They began saying to each other, now here's a common language with a common opinion. They began saying to each other, "Let us make bricks and harden them with fire." In this region, bricks were used instead of stone, and tar was used instead of mortar. So these people had developed advanced construction techniques. Instead of just mud and stone, they used bricks and tar. Then they said, "Come, let us build a great city for ourselves with a tower that reaches into the sky. This will make us famous and keep us from being scattered all over the world. Now, this is direct disobedience to what God said. God spoke to the sons of Noah and said, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth." Chapter 9, verse 1. These people no longer wanted to do what God wanted. They wanted to be famous, and they did not want to be scattered. But the Lord came down to look at the city and the tower the people were building. "Look," he said, "the people are united and they all speak the same language. After this, nothing they set out to do will be impossible for them." Now notice what God is showing us here. These people could accomplish anything if they had the same language, used the same words, they developed new building techniques, they had a common purpose, a common language. These people could be successful. This is why sometimes I get concerned about our own beloved land, because we have like 80 different languages. As long as we use different languages and different words, generations will separate. Even if English is our lingua franca, we use the words differently from generation to generation, and it keeps us separated. If we really want to accomplish things, a unified language would be necessary. Verse 7. "Come, let's go down and confuse the people with different languages. Then they won't be able to understand each other." In that way, the Lord scattered them all over the world, and they stopped building the city. Now, this is how you keep people divided. This is how you scatter people. You confuse the languages. Again, one of my great prayers is that one day in the Philippines, we will have one unified language. Now, I know the Cebuanos will say, "No, we're not going to speak Tagalog." And the Tagalogs will say, "No, it's Filipino." And then the Ilocanos would say, "What about Ilocano?" No, we need to come to an agreement. That is why the city was called Babel, because that's where the Lord confused the people with different languages. In this way, he scattered them all over the earth. This is the account of Shem's family. Now, okay, remember, this is Shem now. This is where the Middle Easterners and the Asians came from. This is the account of Shem's family. 2 years after the great flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad. After the birth of Arphaxad, Shem lived another 500 years and had other sons and daughters. When Arphaxad was 35 years old, he became the father of Shelah. After the birth of Shelah, Arphaxad lived another 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Shelah was 30 years old, he became the father of Ebner. After the birth of Ebner, Shelah lived another 403 years and had other sons and daughters. When Ebner was 34 years old, he became the father of Peleg. After the birth of Peleg, Ebner lived another 430 years and had other sons and other daughters. When Peleg was 30 years old, he became the father of Reu. After the birth of Reu, Peleg lived another 209 years and had other sons and daughters. When Reu was 32 years old, he became the father of Serug. After the birth of Serug, Reu lived another 207 years and had other sons and daughters. When Serug was 30 years old, he became the father of Nahor. After the birth of Nahor, Serug lived another 200 years and had other sons and daughters. When Nahor was 29 years old, he became the father of Terah. Now we're getting into some names we recognize. Terah. After the birth of Terah, Nahor lived another 119 years and had other sons and daughters. After Terah was 70 years old, he became the father of Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. This is the account of Terah's family. Now, here's where Abram begins his life. This is the account of Terah's family. Terah was the father of Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran was the father of Lot. But Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans, the land of his birth. Remember now, this is the sons of Shem. These are where the Middle Easterners and the Asians came from. But Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans, the land of his birth, while his father Terah was still living. Meanwhile, Abram and Nahor, his two siblings, were both married. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah. Milcah and her sister Ishka were the daughters of Nahor's brother Haran. And Sarah was unable to become pregnant and had no children. One day, Terah took his son Abram, his daughter-in-law Sarah, his son Abram's wife, and his grandson Lot, his son Haran's child, and they moved away from Ur of the Chaldeans. He was headed for the land of Canaan, but they stopped at Haran and settled there. Terah lived for 205 years and died while still in Haran. Now we're going to stop reading there today, and we read a lot of names, but I want you to notice here some beautiful truth about Terah. Terah was on his way to the promised land. I believe the promise to Abraham was first given to Terah, because it was after he died that the Lord said to Abraham, "Leave your native country, your relatives, your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you." Generational promises transfer at death. I believe Sarah could have been what Abraham became. You see, Terah, I believe, had the destiny first, had the calling first. But he lost that destiny due to grief. Now, I don't belittle this man in any way. To lose your son is a very difficult, very painful situation. He lost his son Haran. And then he came to a city called Haran, and he settled there. He's on his way to the promised land, but he stopped in the place that reminded him of his son. He stopped in the place of grief. He stopped in his past. He stopped in the place of depression. Now, I want you to learn a great lesson from this, beloved. There are times that God speaks to us to do things, and we start out all right. But then something from our past rises up, something very painful, and we see something that comforts us. And so we park in that place. We have to learn not to park in a place of grief, not to park in a place that comforts us in our grief, not to park in a place of our past, but to always continue to move into the future, into the plans that God has for us. Father, I lift to you your people tonight. Let your hand rest upon them. And Father, all of us have been through very hard things, very difficult things. And sometimes we're just looking for a little comfort in life. Father, let your people keep their eyes on you. Jesus, let them continue to follow you into all that you have for their lives, and give rest to your beloved tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. Good night. God bless you. We'll see you again tomorrow night.
Thank you for joining us today on the 1 Timothy 4:13 project with the under-shepherds of the Cathedral of Praise Philippines, Pastor David E. Sumrall and Sister Beverley Sumrall, with Pastora Alisha Sumrall-Lozano. Catch their podcasts on all leading podcast platforms and listen through DZBR 531 or tune in online at www.bible.radio. The Cathedral of Praise is a church fully committed to Jesus Christ and His Word. Our main campus is located at 350 Taft Avenue, Metro Manila, Philippines. For a full list of COP campus locations and service schedules, visit us at cathedralofpraisemanila.com.ph. Tune in again tomorrow for another inspiring reading from the Old Testament and Proverbs.